So, this fanfiction idea was voted on over on my Patreon. If you guys would like to be part of future Patreon videos, just hit the link in the description box below, head on over there, hit the first tier, that'll allow you access to do so. And technically, this was a tie with another story. Basically, I put out 2 polls, basically asking, like, for this fanfiction idea of, like, what if this event happened, this DC event happened in the Marvel universe, and what if this this DC event, or this Marvel event happened in the DC universe, and what would be the changes? So, yeah, this one did come out as a tie, so I had to play tiebreaker. And that is, you can see, a Marvel version of Forever Evil. So I want to thank everyone who sent in votes for this one. And the other one was the second one I posted, the second poll, that one was more of a landslide, and we'll get to that one later. But for right now, we're going to do the Marvel Universe version of Forever Evil. So, yeah. So the story begins with a message being sent out by the Watcher himself to every superhero on Earth. He's just like, guys, something bad's happening up here. Can you, I need everyone. I legit need everyone, or as many as you can muster, to come up here because we're dealing with a threat like no other. So the Avengers, X-Men, the Fantastic Four, even the Eternals, all unite together and all head up to the moon to go up there and face this threat. They don't come back. Yeah, none of them come back. Instead, what happens is a different version of these superheroes come down. These are a version of a different universe of characters known as Squadron Supreme. So yeah, instead of the Crime Syndicate, we have a variant of the Squadron Supreme who have been portrayed in some universes as villains. So if you guys don't know who the Squadron Supreme is, the Squadron Supreme they're basically like Marvel's version of the Justice League. And sometimes in some universes they're evil, some universes they're good. It varies. So we're dealing with a version of them that are evil. So Hyperion announces to the world that, Squadron Supreme, we killed all your heroes. And they even gather all these villains together after making this proclamation to Earth that, hey, we killed the Avengers, we killed the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Eternals. We fucking killed them all. So now, any other heroes out there, you guys can just run and hide. We'll hunt you down. But to all those who, everyone else, come see us, and you'll be part of our new group. So villains start flocking there left and right to see these villains, to see these new masters of the universe of Earth. And Hyperion, Dr. Spectrum, and the others, they're all like, yeah, we won. We fucking killed them all. Here's proof. And they start throwing down Spider-Man's web shooters or Cap's shield, things like that. And just as proof of evidence, we fucking killed them. And all the villains are like, damn, these guys are really good. But there are others who are like, nah, we're not going with them. And you may be thinking, well, who's the Lex Luthor here? Who's the villain that goes, nah, these guys ain't good? Yeah. So the first one of these villains that says no is, of course, Dr. Doom. And Doom is like, yeah, if anyone's going to rule the world, it's going to be me. I'm the one who gets to rule the universe. I'm the only entitled ruler of the world and the ruler of the universe. Unfortunately, the Squadron Supreme were like, yeah, we know you, Dr. Doom. We encountered a version of you on our Earth, and we took him out the same way. We're going to take you out. So they actually trap Dr. Doom in the negative zone. They disassemble his armor. They basically strip him of his armor, and they huck him into the negative zone. As for others, the next person on the list is Norman Osborn, who's like, they approach Osborn, and they're like, so you gonna play ball? And Osborn's like, absolutely. Here's the villainy, boys. Then there's one villain that they weren't taking into account. That villain is Dr. Otto Octavius. Yep, Doc Ock is our main character here. And Ock is immediately calling the Sinister Six, and he's like, the world belongs to us. It doesn't belong to these bozos. So I've summoned a new version of the Sinister Six. I brought all my guys here, and we're going to go to war with the Squadron Supreme. And they're like, yeah, about that, Doc. They got to us first and gave us a better deal. So the 5 other like the usual 5 other members of the Sinister Six gang up on Ock. He barely gets away. He gets beaten, and he just gets beaten down. And he's like, I'm going to create a superior 6 now. So Ock basically, uses like fake internet sites and like he's basically hiding out in a little safe house he created a few years ago during his early days, and he's like trying to reach out to anyone who could pick up. And thankfully, 5 people do meet with him. Those being Eric Killmonger, Mystique, Abomination, the Hood, and who was the last one? I had them all written down. And the Ghost. So Hood, Ghost, Abomination, Mystique, Eric Killmonger, and Dr. Octopus are the new variation of the Sinister Six, who are now being called the Superior Six and are going to go to war with Squadron Supreme. However, Ock is explaining to the 5, because the other ones, they all have their reasons as to why they hooked up with Ock and are ready to defy the Squadron Supreme. Killmonger's is they killed T'Challa. That was supposed to be me. I wanted, I was the one who was destined to to kill T'Challa. I want, if I can't kill him, I'll kill all of them for taking my revenge. Mystique is like, they murdered my children. They murdered Rogue, and they fucking murdered Rogue, and they murdered Kurt. They've killed my kids. I'm going to kill them all. Abominations is, I don't acknowledge them. I don't acknowledge their authority, and I'm here to, I don't care that they killed Bruce. I don't care that they killed the Hulk. What I do care about, however, is, they don't, I don't acknowledge their authority. The Hood's reasoning is that they're bad for business. And the Ghost is like, I'm just here for anarchy. This is an MCU Ghost. This is like anarchist tech whiz Ghost from the Marvel Comics. So their first course of action is breaking into Stark Tower to get some upgrades. So Ock and the others break in, and they encounter all these other villains that are now working for Squadron Supreme, and they proceed to try to gang up on them. However, it turns out that not every hero was captured or killed by Squadron Supreme. It turns out that 2 heroes managed to get away, those being Sam Wilson, Captain America, and Rogue. It turns out, Rogue and Sam managed to get away. So they managed to get a Quinjet. They managed to fly back to Earth. It was the only way they could get back, and they're trying to get into Stark Labs in order to find some information or find weaponry they could use against Squadron Supreme, especially against someone like Hyperion. But anyway, so the villains encounter them, and after Sam and Rogue help fight back against the villains, they're like, Sam goes, well, now Doc, I'm in charge. And the villains are all like, did you just hear him? And Rogue's just like, no, they're in charge. I'm pretty sure they're in charge, but thankfully Mystique keeps Sam and Rogue from getting killed because, again, it's her daughter, and also it's like, we kind of need all the help we can get. And do you really want to deal with the problem of killing Captain America? And Ock's like, agreeable. So Ock and his Sinister Six, along with Rogue and Sam, make their own little alliance, and Sam and Rogue explain to the villains of what happened. They basically say that, we got all called up there, and what happened was it was a trap, obviously. It turns out Squadron Supreme arrived in this universe, and they've been conquering universes. It's not just our Earth they've visited. This version of the Squadron Supreme has been going around conquering and destroying other Earths. And they ganged up and beat down the Watcher, and then used Dr. Spectrum to create a version or a lights construct of Uatu to call everyone here. And they all that we did battle with them, but it turns out they had a way to trap us, and they used Wanda and Strange's magic against us. Basically, they used a device to alter Wanda and Steven's magic in order and forced and trapped everyone in the dark dimension. So yeah, all the other, like every other superhero is now trapped in the dark dimension, and no one knows how to get the fuck out. So that was another reason why Rogue and Strange were here, because Rogue and Sam were here because Sam always heard like Tony was always experimenting on a way to like open a door to the dark dimension, and he's like, well, there's no way Stark would ever be able to produce that, but I do know someone who might. So they go to Roxxon and encounter Dario Agger, who is, of course, Agger is obviously working with Squadron Supreme, so they have to fight their way against them. And they're like, and Agger's like, really, Dr. Octopus, you're the one leading the charge? Are you for real? Like, get the fuck out of here, man. You're nothing, dude. You are just a big pile of nothing. You fight a bug man. And Ock is like, true, I fight a bug man. But you want to know why I just stick to Spider-Man? Because it makes me feel unassuming. Case in fucking point. And he just fucking drills his tentacles through Agger's chest and just proceeds to, like, pull out his entire fucking rib cage. And he's just like, come back from that, you pile of walking spoiled beef. So they find a weapon, or rather a portal that can open back up to the dark dimension. However, Squadron Supreme already figured this out and proceeded to like send Hyperion, who proceeds to just beat down Abomination with no problem. So as they're fighting the members of Squadron Supreme, Ock opens up the dark dimension, and he's like, well, we can't let them we can't leave this open. I don't believe in... Even the Hood brings up, hey, I'm a conduit to the dark dimension. I'll just go in and get him. So that's what Doc and the Hood go into the dark dimension and proceed to, like, pull everyone out. And so that's what Squadron Supreme's like, oh no! And Thor comes flying in first and goes, verily. It just fucking smacks Hyperion across the face, and he's like, I knew a Hyperion ages ago who was a good man. You're not that Hyperion. So they're just fucking wrecking house left and right until the heroes throw them in the dark dimension, where Dormammu is like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking torture them for a while. So they shut the portal. All's well that ends well. And by the end of it, the world has to acknowledge, even like Sam brings up the fact that, like, no, we didn't save the day. They did. Dr. Otto Octavius saved the world, and Peter's like in the background, like, fucking kill me. But he does, like, Peter does go to Otto and is like, hey man, thank you. And he's like, I know there's still always knew there was still like some good in you in some capacity. And Otto's like, don't get it twisted. I did it for myself. And Peter's like, sure you did, Doc. We're not sending you to the raft. We're letting you guys get some amnesty. And in typical event fashion, it's like, so we thought you guys would be good candidates for a new initiative. And they're like, what's that? And they show off it's a new Thunderbolts initiative with Ock leading it. So there you go. Now, if this was a actual Marvel event, you'd have some tie-ins. So let's talk about, just for shits and giggles, let's talk about some tie-ins here and there. One being the Fantastic Four tie-in, where Valeria and Rich and Franklin, they both brave the negative zone and even Annihilus to find Doom, who they hope can find their father and find the rest of the Fantastic Four. A Spider-Man one, which is about Miles Morales, who's trying to protect his home from all these villains and even members of the Squadron Supreme. You have Moon Knight, who's also trying to keep his town safe. Moon Knight. Then you also have Daredevils, who now with the Squadron Supreme, Kingpin and Bullseye are now just wrecking house across Hell's Kitchen. As for others, because again, not every hero was brought up. The X-Men tie-in, I would say, for the X-Men one, the X-Men tie-in is that with most of the X-Men gone, there are others, like pockets of X-Men, but there aren't enough, and they're being rounded up and captured and thrown in a prison on the remnants of Genosha. So what happened? The one person who didn't go up to space, though, with the moon was Magneto, and Magneto creates a group called the Brotherhood of X, which is Mr. Sinister, Juggernaut, Emma Frost, and Apocalypse. And they proceed to wreck house against the Squadron Supreme. So there you go, guys. That is the Marvel Universe version of Forever Evil. I want to thank everyone who voted on this, and stay tuned for the next one, because that will be the DC Universe version of a Marvel event. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.